168 species in genus Acer, maple tree. Exploring the beauty of the genus Acer. When it comes to trees that capture my imagination, the genus Acer from the Sapindaceae family always takes center stage. Known commonly as maples, these trees are botanical marvels that offer a stunning combination of aesthetics, ecological significance, and practical uses. Let me take you through my personal journey with Acer, its diversity, cultural impact, and why it's a genus worth appreciating. What does a maple tree look like? I've always loved maple trees, especially in the fall. Their leaves are so distinctive, like big, open hands with those pointed fingers reaching out. There's one old maple near the park where I used to play as a kid, and its leaves always turn the most amazing shade of fiery orange. In summer, they're a really lush green that gives the best shade, but fall is when the maple comes into its own, with colors like yellow, red, and everything in between. They're just beautiful. How to identify maple trees? The leaves are the real giveaway when it comes to maple trees. If you find a tree with those iconic star-shaped leaves, you've probably got a maple. They also often have a rough, grayish bark, especially the really big old ones. Then there are the little helicopter seeds they drop. My friends and I used to throw those at each other all the time. Oh, and you can't forget the amazing display of color a lot of maples put on in fall, with everything from warm yellows to bright reds. See full list at monsteraholic.com. When to prune maple trees. From what I recall, the best time to prune most maple trees is later in the season. My dad was the one who usually took care of those things, and I remember him always heading out in late summer or fall to prune the big maple by our garage. He said something about it being better for the tree since it was done bleeding all that sap. Plus, with the leaves mostly gone, it was easier to really see what branches needed to go. I'd always help him gather up the branches afterward. How to prune a young maple tree. Okay, I don't have a ton of first-hand experience with pruning young maple trees myself, but I do remember watching my neighbor prune his a few years back. He started by looking for any branches that were obviously dead or broken and getting rid of those. Then, he focused on making the tree's overall shape nicer. He'd step back, look for a second, and then snip off branches that were sticking out too far or crossing over each other. It seemed like he was trying to make sure there was plenty of space for light and air to reach into the center of the tree. I'm pretty sure it's important not to go overboard, though. You don't want to take off too much when they're still young. How long do maple trees live? Maple trees come in all sorts of varieties, and it seems like some live longer than others. I remember reading about sugar maples that have been around for hundreds of years. Those must be seriously impressive trees. The ones around my neighborhood probably live around 100 years or so. I know there's a few that were definitely there when I was a little kid. Sadly, some maples, like the smaller ornamental ones, might have a shorter lifespan. Even so, they can still provide a lot of beauty and shade for many years. How fast does a maple tree grow? The speed at which maple trees grow seems to depend on the kind of maple we're talking about. There's this huge silver maple near my house, and I swear, that thing grows like a weed. It was fairly small when I moved in, but now it towers over the whole yard. On the other hand, my aunt has a beautiful Japanese maple that's slowly but surely getting bigger over the years. It's a more delicate, elegant tree that seems to be taking its time. I've also heard that good sunlight and healthy soil can give maple trees a growth boost. When do maple trees bloom? Honestly, I'm not super familiar with when maple trees bloom. I know they do in the springtime, sometimes even before the leaves unfurl, but I tend to focus more on those beautiful fall colors. My guess is that the specific timing would depend on the type of maple tree and even the local climate. We had one big maple tree in our yard growing up, and I can't really remember it having obvious blooms at all. Still, it might be something cool to look up. Maybe there's a maple blooming season somewhere with those beautiful fall colors to boot. I bet that would be a sight worth seeing. Do maple trees have acorns? Nope, maple trees don't have acorns. Acorns are the nuts of oak trees. They look completely different. Maple trees have those distinctive winged seeds that spin and fall to the ground. Everyone calls them helicopters because of how they twirl in the air. I used to collect them by the handful and see how far I could throw them. How many taps per maple tree? I don't have direct experience with tapping maple trees, but I do remember learning a little about it when we visited some sugar shacks in Vermont a few years back. From what I recall, it depends on how big your maple tree is. Smaller ones should only have one tap, so you don't stress the tree out. For larger maples, you might be able to get away with 2 taps, and really big old ones might even handle 3. But I think the best bet is to be conservative and start with 1 tap, especially if you're concerned about the tree's health.